HW Adams here on behalf of Apex Trader Funding, and I'm here today with Abraham. Abraham, how's it going today?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Gates?
I'm doing great, thanks. Thanks for spending a little time with me today. I think we're going to have a little fun and see if we can share some stories that might be helpful and meaningful for other traders out there.
Yeah.
First of all, you're here because obviously you're paid out. That's obviously why we do these videos in the first place, is to share some of those stories. So let me start by saying congratulations on the payout.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, is this the first payout, or have you had several payouts already?
This is my second payout.
Second payout. Okay, perfect. So we've got a little bit of consistency and growth there.
Mhm.
So let's take it a step back and kind of go back to the beginning. About how long have you been trading now?
About 4 years. I started trading in March of 2020.
Okay. How did you actually get into the timing? I can already tell you the
And
answer to this,
yeah,
but how did you get into trading?
I'm sure you've heard this one a lot of times by now.
Right.
Um, yeah, I know. I feel like I've always had like this entrepreneurial spirit to kind of just figure things out outside of my job, and I've always been looking, if that makes sense.
Right.
And 2020 happened. Everybody's talking about the stock market and things like that, and it just seemed like a natural inclination for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you how were you exposed to the idea of trading? Were you like just part of some groups? Did you seek it out? Did somebody say, "Hey, you should try this out"?
It was actually this guy on Twitter who just used to kind of buy and hold. That was his
Okay.
thing, like everything dip. He's like, it's time to go, right? And I'm like, what is he doing? At that time, Discords, groups, things like that, I had no idea about, like nothing about indicators, everything, just a newbie experience. Trading just seemed um like an individual endeavor at that
Right.
point. Personally, that's kind of how I saw it. And so if you can just buy low and sell high, anybody can do that. That's kind
Right.
of
Right.
what
Well, in theory.
in theory, right?
Right.
But yeah, so it was pretty organic. Just did a lot of research, Investopedia, watched a lot of YouTube videos. There were some people on YouTube that were making consistent videos, like day trading, recording live streams, and I found that to be very beneficial. And then I started joining some Discord groups, joined a few, didn't really know what I was doing, because they all have different niches and things like that. I started with stocks, went to options, and then I hated the theta with the options.
I
And I
hear
was,
that almost constantly. Every time someone moves in, and that's the normal progression.
yeah,
Stocks,
exactly.
options, futures, and it's always the comment about theta.
Yeah. So I wanted something consistent, like
Sure.
because I really want to do this, like
Right.
for a living. I want some consistency in this endeavor. I don't want a Lambo or anything like that. I just want to be comfortable.
Right.
So I wanted to be able to do it with one instrument in one um, space, like futures and things like that. And so when I found futures, it just made sense.
Right. So
Yeah.
how long were you how long ago, when was that you started actually moving into the future space?
Um, I found futures about midway 2021,
Okay. So we've still
and
got a couple years on
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So
But I
what
wasn't
about
really sure what it was. I
yeah,
was just like, oh, this is something different. Okay, I'll check it out.
structurally speaking, yeah, a lot of times people are like, well, if it just goes up or if it just goes down,
Right. It's something. You can
right,
trade it.
it makes sense.
Right.
Simple math. Um, so how did you like were you able to take what you were trading, your strategies as far as stocks or options, were you able to take any of that into futures, or did you kind of start over and find new strategies?
I've had to start over a few times.
Mhm.
Every time I thought that I figured it out, right? Because you just see a little bit of success, but it just wasn't something you could sustain for a long time. So
Right.
every 6 months or so between 2021 to about end of 2022, close to about end of summer 2022,
Mhm.
I was trying to figure things out.
Sure.
Um, 2022, I found a strategy that I felt like helped me
Mhm.
and made sense for my personality, which is really, really low time frames.
Sure.
Um, and the lower I got, the better I got. So I just kept bringing it down even more
Mhm.
because I can't hold. That's my thing. I just know that. and also with Apex, because of the intraday trailing threshold, like I don't want to make that a thing. So I
Sure.
want to get in, get out, make sure that it's not an issue for
Right.
me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I joke about this. I don't know if you've seen the Trader Bacon show with Dylan Benzinga. I always joke about the fact that I can't stand being in a trade longer than 30 seconds. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm not a long-term trader by any stretch. So
Yeah,
that, and absolutely, I think personality has a lot to do with that and finding something that meshes. Because one thing I've seen is that any decent strategy can be a winning strategy. Any decent strategy can
right.
be a losing strategy. It depends on who's executing it and how that
Mhm.
connects with them specifically. So
Right.
at what point did you find Apex?
Midway 2022,
Okay,
I think.
so
Yeah, a year ago.
about after a little bit after you started trading futures.
Yeah, yeah,
Gotcha. Okay, how
yeah.
did
Because
hmm? Go ahead.
um, I can't even remember how I found it. To be honest with you, it's probably because I catered my Twitter timeline to just be traders only. So I just only see traders, 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 just the same
Right.
thing over and over. So um, everything that's kind of happening in the community, I don't really miss most of the time. I want to make sure I'm on top of it. So
Mhm.
that's I don't know. I ran into somebody that said they're trading futures, and then I looked at it, and it's essentially and I was thinking indices, right? I wasn't thinking about oil or anything like that. Before that, I had been trading SPX.
Okay.
So I wasn't really moving too far. I just was getting rid of the structure of the whole
Sure.
instrument itself, which was crazy drops and pops that I really didn't really appreciate. I couldn't really create consistency with that.
Mhm.
Um, Liquidity wasn't as great either with SPX. Um, so yeah, Twitter. I'm probably gonna guess on Twitter. That's my bet.
Probably on
Probably
Twitter.
Twitter. Yeah.
Now, do you remember your first thought? And if you don't remember finding it, you may not necessarily remember this, but did you have any sort of a thought when you first were basically posed the idea that somebody would take the financial risk for your trading?
Yeah. I my brother, when I was trading when I first started, 2020, everybody was at
Right.
home trying to figure out something to do. So they started kind of seeing me trading and they're like, what is that? So they started checking it out too. Um, and he proposed the idea of me trading his money and his friend's money. And at that time, I was like, okay, that sounds great. I like the idea of leveraging and things like that.
Mhm.
So I kind of had the idea in my mind because of that conversation and conversations I've had before. But when I came into Apex, as soon as I saw it, it kind of just clicked.
Right.
I didn't really have to kind of question like why this exists or why it would be beneficial to either party or anything like that. It just kind of made sense,
Right.
mathematically. Um, Rules made sense to me. I mean, it's not my money, so I can't complain at all. What
Right.
rules are, I know a lot of people complain about stuff with the things, but it's just what it is. You got to play by the rules and succeed somehow.
Sure. I
So
mean, there's always option B, which is make a
your own money.
deposit.
Exactly.
So yeah, yeah, we can handle a rule or two here and there. So what has changed for you in the way that you trade, or at least in the way that you see trading, moving into being a funded trader versus operating on your own funds?
I think the biggest thing that um, Apex has taught me is rules.
Mhm.
I'm a very like spontaneous guy, which is why I try to go down to the lower time frames to reduce any issues that might come with my
Right.
spontaneity, right? So it helps with my personality. But when I started adhering to the rules and bringing the size down a little bit and magnifying on the risk and making it a little bit smaller and making sure I get a better entry each time, I started to feel like I knew what I was doing. Like I could
Right.
depend on this consistency moving forward.
Sure.
Um, and I feel like that definitely was worth it because I still have my personal account.
Mhm.
It's just the leverage is not, as much as I would like it to be one day. I hope it does.
Right.
But it's very simple for me to be able to trade in Apex's environment because um, the whole thing just kind of makes it easy for me. You
Right.
know, um, if you do well every 2 weeks, it's kind of like a job. So I don't want to train myself to want to depend too much on the money, like kind of treating it as a business and things like. I feel like the whole infrastructure encourages people to treat it as a business if they choose to, and the rules help them really understand that you have to think about risk the whole time.
Mhm.
So that's the biggest lesson I've learned.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Mhm.
So at this point, if you're talking to a new trader, and I think based on that, I can probably guess the answer, but you're talking to a new trader, they just, they've gotten past the whole sim trading, right? They're ready
Mhm.
to go. And they're looking at becoming a funded trader and getting their first valuation. What's the biggest piece of advice you could give them to get them past that first hurdle?
Um, I think take it slow.
Mhm.
I think one of the things that can happen when you find this kind of environment is you get pretty greedy, and I experienced that myself. Get 20 accounts, at the same time, like day one. As soon as you discover Apex exists, get 20 accounts and just like, blow all of them. It's just not a good idea. Just start with one, kind of get a feel of like how, the rules work,
Sure.
how your trading works in the environment, whatever platform you're using. Just take your time, trade micros, tight stops, all that good stuff. Just the things that we're supposed to do that we choose not to do because we're greedy and we want the results so soon. And a
Mhm.
lot of it is circumstantial. Like, some of us, 2020, we were out of a job. So for somebody to feel that pressure to produce right away and perform, you could understand where they would be coming from. But it's like trading is a very paradoxical experience.
Mhm.
If you do the opposite of what maybe your human body wants to do, you probably will do okay. That's my theory, at least.
Human nature definitely does have some contradictions with consistent trading, and that's something that I think that we all have to get past.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in that cycle.
yeah,
And
forever.
kind of the nature of the beast, so to speak. So, well,
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. Well, I sure appreciate your time and getting a chance to talk with you today. One of the things that I love to do is just kind of catch up a few months down the road after we've done one of these interviews and just kind of see how things are coming along. Would you be up for catching up here in a little bit?
yeah, that'd be great. That's a good
Awesome.
challenge for myself. Yeah,
There we go. Got to keep it consistent so we can have another call.
exactly.
Awesome. Well, Abraham, I really appreciate you spending some time with me today, and I look forward to catching up and seeing your continued success.
For sure. Thank you for having me. It was
My
great.
pleasure. Thanks.
All right. Have a good one.